There's a lot of moving parts.
It's a hard live broadcasting is difficult, right?
Yeah.
So once again, welcome to the Dev Talk Show on February 26th, 2020. We're live. We are worldwide. We are on Twitch. We're on Mixer. We're on YouTube. If you're watching on the West Coast, maybe you're just getting out of work, so you're probably not watching. You might be in your car, and that's too bad. So hopefully
working late.
You could be working late, but then go home. Go home and have some time with your family.
You're still here.
Yeah, you're still working. And if you're watching this in the future and it's not February 26th anymore, then thank you for joining us on YouTube, where you can find replays for everything at video.thedevtalkshow.com. That just takes you to our YouTube channel. So for tonight's show, we were talking a little bit about different activities we've been doing. And, you know, a lot of times the three of us talk about using tools that you might use at work if you're already a software developer in a small enterprise or a big enterprise. And we'll talk about, you know, some of the big tools that have been around a long time, like Visual Studio IDE, which has been around over 20 years.
That makes me feel old.
Yeah, I mean, I remember getting Visual Studio 97 when they still used to
in the
box
of CDs.
It was a box. And in fact, let's be honest, I did have, I think there was a Visual Studio 4. I think. I could be wrong, and maybe it was just that Visual Studio 97 contained Visual C++ 4. That could be the case. We're going back a long way. But yeah, we're going back a long way.
We're going back a long way.
But we're not here to talk about VB6 or Visual InterDev or anything like that tonight, or Bob or anything from the past.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about what people are doing today. And so what's interesting
and tomorrow,
because this could be tomorrow. One thing that a lot of folks ask, I think all of us all the time, or you might run into people at Code Camp, or people will ask, like, how can I get started in software development? And some of the tools that we show folks, you know, they're not free. Although there are free versions, like Visual Studio Community, which is free. But then you might need maybe a more modern machine or something, and there's some setup to do there.
Okay.
And there's an emerging space, it's been building for a little while now, of development tools and platforms that can all be accessed inside a web browser. Simple example is if you were to use a cloud service like, say, Microsoft Azure, you can go to the portal.
Mm-hmm.
You go to portal.azure.com, and you can. We do it here on the show sometimes. Spin up an app and spin up resource groups, and then, you know, I think we've always talked about how it's a good way to learn, and then maybe when you really go to work, you want to automate it and find another way to do that.
Yeah.
But you can learn a lot from the portal.
Yeah, and you can actually write code in the portal there too. And the app that you spin up, you can switch it over into. Well, there's two ways to do it now. There's like
Well, there's Azure Functions,
yeah,
which you can write right in the portal. But that's not what you were saying. You were saying in the web app.
Look for
Are you talking about the Kudu stuff or the SSH?
There's that one, but what's the other? There's a newer one now, right? I'm looking at you, Rich, to see if you remember.
Trying to think where you're going here.
Where you can like go to. I'm gonna open up the portal and
let's do that.
Don't go to my machine yet.
Okay.
I gotta,
So certainly there's a lot of tools that are available right in your browser, or for example, if you want to do source control, right? Where's the world source control being hosted today? It's in GitHub.
40 million developers, right?
Yeah, I mean, what project is not? Most projects are in GitHub.
Yeah.
So including a lot of my own, and I think most of the time we think of GitHub as something where we bring code down to our machine, we clone it down, we work a little bit, and then we might commit back up. But you can do edits on the site.
Sure. Right in the browser there.
You can edit, and you can make changes, and say you could even commit to a feature branch and start a pull request.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Found it. Sorry.
Okay, yeah.
What was it?
App Service Editor. It's in preview.
Oh, wow.
Let's bring your machine up.
So let's start off with our first example of editing. No, this is fine. This is what's great about it. Here's our first example of never leaving the browser. We have an app service.
So
that's you, right, Andy?
Yeah, this is me. Before I go, let me just do something real quick. I'm going to go over to I want to do this well. So, oh my gosh, my machine was, oh my God. I said I'm going to do this well, and look what's going on here. All right, what I want to do down is go to before I start up, I should have done this beforehand. Go to my utilities, and I'm going to fire up Zoom It, because I know we're going to need it. Okay. And I'm going to fire up Karnak too because Karnak comes in handy for showing like, keystrokes and stuff like that. So,
yeah, so
here we
Karnak,
are.
like you said, is when you do special keystrokes,
yeah.
we're going to see them in the corner.
So App Service Editor, which is in preview.
Okay.
Now I'm in an app service, as you can see up here.
Yep.
App service. Okay. And this happens to be the Stream website that I was developing today. No big deal, right? It's just a website, just a Azure web app. And you can go down here to App Service Editor, and I have to say go over here. It's going to open up a new tab. Oh, look at this. It's going to ask me to sign in again. I don't remember doing that in the past, but that's okay. And now, let's see what happens here. There it is. Now look what we got here. This might look somewhat familiar in a way, right?
That does look very familiar.
It does look familiar to you guys, doesn't it? So what I've got here is a lot of stuff because this was deployed out to here. But I have app settings. I can go to www. Now this app was compiled before it was deployed, so the source code isn't here.
Right.
Right. But the source code could be here. But I have my JSON files. I'll have all my CSS and things like that. That would be in here. My things like that. And what I'm saying is that if I did want to go to, I've played with this a little bit. I can go to this console here. So if it was C# code, I could run like build
Right.
Right here, in the browser. I could do that if I wanted to. Matter of fact, we could spin up a new one. It would probably be a better example if I spun up a new one. And maybe if you're talking about some other stuff, I can work on that in the background.
Yeah, okay.
Spin up a new app.
Yeah.
But the point is that
it would be neat to see the choices you had to begin with when spinning up that app.
Yeah, I think that you don't spin it up here. You're spinning it up in the app
service,
like when you're creating your app service. You don't, there's not like that many choices, but it's going to put in. I think it puts some kind of default. Now I got to remember how to do this. I've seen it once before.
So you should be doing this on camera.
I should be doing this on camera. What?
Well, on the just file new app service.
You want to do it right now?
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. So let's go over and do file new. So it's not really file new, but I'm going to go to app service. This is really not what we were.
No.
Well, is this okay?
It's fine because we've got a couple other things we're going to show, but this is interesting. You have an app service. So we're talking about this. To set the stage for someone at home, maybe you're familiar with the Azure portal. You could go to the Azure portal. This is what you're saying, Andy. You could go to the Azure portal. You're doing the file new project of a web app. You're creating the web app right now.
I'm going to call this the file new demo.
Right.
And I have some naming conventions. Don't worry too much about this. I have some naming conventions.
And it sounds like where you're heading here, at least what I'm seeing, is that it's going to spin this up, and then you're going to be able to just do some basic work in it. And we're not in Visual Studio Code. We're not in Visual Studio. We're not in any editor, in any platform.
Just in the
because
the
web apps support more than .NET too. So like if you were doing a Java web app,
right? You're
not bringing up Eclipse. You're not bringing up anything. It's pretty interesting stuff here. I was totally unaware of this.
Yeah, same. This
is funny. In researching this, I didn't come across App Service Editor Preview. That's pretty cool stuff.
File new demo -rg oh, sorry.
The pressure's on your typing live.
Yeah, I can't spell. I got to turn off some of these rules I have on my computer that on my subscription that. So I'm going to throw this into a new app service plan. I do not want to go to a full-size app service plan. P1 Premium V2. What do you think that would cost for this demo? I'm going to go to free. And hopefully I can review and create this thing. Hopefully it won't fail. I might get a naming convention. Template failed. I knew it. Oh, because I didn't put tags. See, I have all these rules on my thing. Which is good for other stuff, but kind of a pain when you're doing demos.
They do get in the way when you do demos, but they are great for the governance and the making sure that you're subscription does not get out of
because it does get out of whack pretty
Yeah.
quickly. We could talk about that later, but let's just see. Hopefully this is enough.
Well, I think we did do a show on that. Everybody
did
point
do
up
a
to the
show
upper
on
right.
You point to it right where.
We'll put a link to that afterwards.
Hey, look, Rich is on the.
Yeah,
You embedded yourself over the top.
You asked what we were doing.
That's cool. I like that you're embedded in there too. We got to get another green screen behind you. That would work, right?
I'm working on that. Yeah.
Oh. So it's going to take a minute to do a deployment.
Right. So let's
yeah.
maybe we talk about another option while that deployment's going on, right? So, let's look at this one for now. Let's take a look. It's gonna take me a sec. Here we go. All right. So, all right, I'm ready here. At least
you're gonna switch over to Chris's machine. And I will, because you know what? As we do this,
sorry, I was listening to the audio.
Yeah, Chris's machine.
Yeah, because the web deployment's going to take a little bit, so we can talk about, and I can't wait to see App Service Editor in preview. We'll see that in a second. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Code Sandbox, which is one of a few places online where you can do JavaScript. Front end web development, all in a browser. A lot of folks may be familiar with JS Fiddle or CodePen,
right?
And those are great. And I think when JS Fiddle was new, it was kind of a place where you put little samples.
Man, when it was new, weren't you kind of like, whoa, this is cool?
It was cool.
I can just play with the JavaScript in there.
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of where some of the stuff came from.
Yep. And so the reason why I wanted to bring up Code Sandbox is I recently participated in mentoring at a hackathon in a local school district, and we had approximately 25 youth there from middle school all the way to high school seniors. And they come with a variety of computers. Sometimes they just have a little device that's not very powerful at all, and or it could be that they have an old device. I mean, I hate to say it, but there was a girl there who showed up with a Windows 8 laptop.
Sure. And
we're all sitting there saying like, wow, it's not even in support. You kind of worry about the machine. But nevertheless,
and
that was
frankly,
the OS.
She's psyched. That's her laptop.
That's the OS on
she's
her
happy
laptop.
She's got it, right?
Yeah.
And everybody gets.
And then there were some great. There was like somebody. A girl had a gaming laptop, but not for gaming purposes. She was big time into art and video production.
Oh, well,
she even brought her little drawing tablet.
Nice.
So she made all the assets over the weekend. It's wonderful artist.
Nice.
So the point is, you have this diverse set of hardware, and in past years at this Codeathon, we would have kids install editors, and they would install Git, and they would install so that they could work. This year, we went for an entirely browser-based approach. And for the editing, we used Code Sandbox IO. And here's why. You see it on the screen right now. It says Web Development Made Easy. I said create a sandbox, and what you get access to are some pretty darn good templates to get you started in technologies like React, Vue, Angular. You want to build a Node backend. They've got Node HTTP server there. You want to use something like Preact. You want to use TypeScript. So there's good templates for all of that. Now, just to keep it simple, let's just what happens if I click on static? What it does is it create, and they use.
I'm not seeing.
They
Mine the right.
Oh, it looks like I did freeze. It looks like I did freeze.
No worries. All right, hang on. Let's do.
Until you said click on, I wasn't sure that you. My deployment is ready, so if yours is on, we can go back to my thing.
Should we go back to your screen?
You want to go back to mine and talk about? Is this gonna be too confusing if we go back?
No, it'll take just a second for me to finish here. I remember last time we didn't.
You want to just try? You gonna be back?
Well, I think he can bring it back up, but it's just
okay.
We didn't have any of these last week, so I thought we were over that issue. At least I hoped we were.
You did seem to go smoothly last week. Yours computer seems to freeze sometimes when we connect.
Over NDI, yes.
Over NDI.
There you go. Try that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
this is it now. Okay.
So you have a lot of choices here. You have React and Vue and Angular, and just to keep it simple, if I click static, they do use the Visual Code Editor in here, Visual Studio Code Editor in here. So for example, let's just say I blow this away. You've got the Emmet syntax. At least you did.
The what syntax?
Okay. Well,
who's Emmet?
I was just gonna show off Emmet syntax, and then
doesn't work.
I think it does.
What is Emmet syntax?
So this is it right here. Okay, This is actually built into Visual Studio Code, by the way. So if you're using Visual Studio Code, have you ever, you're going to link a CSS style sheet. Do you have that wired? Do you know it by heart?
No.
Because I don't.
No.
And instead of looking it up, I can say link.
Yeah.
And then, oh, yeah. Here's what I want. I want a CSS style sheet. And see how the Emmet abbreviations start coming up. You may have been ignoring these.
No, I just never knew they were called Emmet.
Yeah, and then I dealt, and then that's it. It's done.
Yeah. It's like IntelliSense.
It's like it's like, except that it's a standard. It's a standard notation. And the reason why I thought I was showing this off is that just a single exclamation mark, and then you hit tab and you get boilerplate.
Oh yeah, it didn't work the first time.
Yeah, it didn't work. I think it's possible the Emmet part maybe has to load in a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
But if any of that looked familiar to you, that's because they are using Visual Studio Code as the editor in here.
That's crazy.
On the left-hand side, you're seeing a file explorer.
Yep.
You can start uploading images here, drag and drop, start creating, you want to add a CSS file? Okay, well, maybe we want to put it in a CSS folder, and then maybe we even want to, whoops, what I meant to do was say that I wanted to adding a new file.
Nope, that wasn't right there yet.
But I didn't get it right.
You didn't get it on the spot you wanted, but that's probably okay.
Oh, no way. Should work. Sorry about that.
Maybe you have to drag it right over the word.
Oh, I don't think I created a folder here. I think
is that a file?
Yeah, that's what I did wrong.
Oh, yeah. I can see the icon is better now. Yeah. Okay, that's why it didn't go in there. Okay. So you're moving, delete, and now you're going to move CSS, and then you can move that up. And
there we go. And so I could start writing CSS here.
I'm just saying, as watching this, I'm already impressed.
I'm in the browser. I'm in the browser.
Yeah.
So here's VS Code. This is the experience of VS Code.
And what we haven't talked about yet is over on the right.
I saw this on the right. It's a preview.
So see the H1 tag?
Yeah.
Let's go apply a style to H1s, and let's just say that they're all going to be red, and that's good enough. Save it. Semicolon. Yeah. Okay. Save it. Now I haven't linked. that CSS just like we were talking about. And remember, I told you I never remember.
Yeah.
So. Can I use Alt-Shift-F to format? Yes, I can. Just like in Visual Studio Code. Okay. And I called it Site CSS. Save that. And then
it's in a folder though, right?
Oh, you're right. Yeah. You're right. This is all good because it hasn't quite kicked in yet, right? And there you go.
Dude, that is really cool.
So you can just start going to work. Now, here's the thing. It has team support, so you can very quickly come to this tab down here. This takes
slow back. Which tab were you
so we've been working here in the File Explorer section. The second one, the bottom one is Teams. This takes a little bit of setup. We're not going to do it right now, but if everybody had a Code Sandbox account, I could invite you to a team, and then we would all work in here live together in a very live share-like experience. So this is how the kids worked.
Wow. So you would say, hey, who wants to write the next line? And any of the kids, you pick one of the kids. They're all in the same window.
They all work together. Well, even better than that, one of them could be working on the CSS while one of them's working on a different. File. Yeah, that was all fun.
Oh,
they've all joined a session very similar to live share. Yeah. And so I know what's interesting about this is we actually removed the Git portion from the weekend because this was collaborative enough. Mm-hmm. And the great thing about it is any of them could disconnect and reconnect because Code Sandbox hosts when you're doing it as a team, they host the session. So even there wasn't any concern that you started the project and then your computer crashed.
Right.
That was of no concern. You could leave. And the other four were still together.
The files are all saved.
Everything was being happening in their cloud, right? Or I don't know how Code Sandbox.
And you need an account, by the way, right?
You do need an account to get this working.
Free account?
It is a free account. They do have some pro features, but remember, everything done that weekend was free. So everything I'm describing to you, they did. And what we're not showing here is how they created a team, and then they could work on this at their leisure. And then we did, for publishing purposes, we did finally do a push to GitHub to get it on GitHub pages. But you can get a lot done in here.
This is a pretty good experience. And I can't help but notice the GitHub icon.
There is Git integration. Now, what you can do is you can export to GitHub, okay? It's not, I actually had some feedback for these folks because it's not quite as clean as I might want it, where a team might work for a little while and then they could go commit somewhere. Right. They don't quite have that. You can export and create a brand new GitHub repo, which was okay, but it's not quite what you might want, where you might want to deploy several times over the weekend, or at least.
So let me just see if I understand. So you're saying that if I was to connect this to Git, we can't do like commits and stuff like that. It's not quite that.
You can, like, they have this PR feature, but it wasn't as intuitive as I wanted for the teammates.
Okay.
However, let's talk about a feature that it does have. Okay, that's pretty cool. I can say new Sandbox and come over here.
Where are you? I can't see your mouse.
Yeah, so I thought I had that.
I do see it sometimes, but it seems that depending on
Down scan converter.
Yeah, maybe you
or
lost
did
freeze.
did I freeze again? It looks like I froze again.
You froze again. Okay.
I do have that on in scan converter.
Yeah, that's why. Because I was seeing your mouse before. I'm seeing it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back up. That's a
there it goes.
Let's quick fix this.
No, it's going now.
Yeah,
it's going
so
now.
You're going.
So there's an import project.
Import from GitHub.
Okay. Yep. And I got to go get the project.
You got to go to GitHub and figure it out.
No,
Hey, why don't you do me a favor? Can you maximize your browser window? Because I feel like we're not getting full screen real estate here.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
And if you put in a GitHub repository,
okay,
and say generate Sandbox, it can bring this in, and you can go back to work. Now you can create PRs from here, and I don't. It's tough because this is totally unfair in 5 minutes,
right?
To kind of say I can create a PR from here with the work that I've done, but I don't have the ability. I didn't have the ability to like stage this, not stage that. It wasn't as clean as I might like, but it's still pretty good. So the point is, I just brought in a GitHub repository, and now you can already see it's rendering on the right hand side, and I can go to work here and say like, hey, let me go work on the CSS assets. I might change a few things. So, free in the browser.
Yeah.
You can export out to GitHub. I do think more features are coming. This is a very, very good tool, and it was good enough for us to take a classroom of students who had never built websites before, put them in teams of 5 so they could collaborate, and they produced, 5 websites over that weekend of time.
So let me ask you this. I'm just curious, and I know you're not an expert at all things on this product here. Take GitHub out of it, and we're just back to their sort of vanilla, I can save files and stuff like that. Do they have any kind of file history built into that?
I don't remember there being history. Let's go take a look at, if you go to your little dashboard here and you look at your recent sandboxes, they take every dashboard you create, gets a funny name, which you can go change. Okay. But they're making them all unique, right?
Oh, Youthful Sutherland.
Yeah, these are just, it's kind of like
that whole idea of
like
words.
Docker things.
Right,
But these were some of like I said, the students made these websites over the weekend.
I think my kids would love this.
And
as a day one kind of tool.
Let's see about history here. See, I don't necessarily see history, right? But I can certainly open the Sandbox, and here's their work, and here's all their different pages and everything that they brought in.
Right.
And they worked together on this, and it was fantastic, right?
You know what I like about this? As a day one kind of thing, right?
Yeah, that's
day one. You're in here, you're learning. Day 2, even maybe the first week, whatever whatever day 1 means, right? You're having a good time, and then you want to upgrade. Let's just say, and you want to go back, and you're going to get a VS Code for your computer, which is also free.
Yep.
Guess what? It looks really familiar to you.
You're in a familiar place.
You're going, okay, I understand this paradigm, this place we're at now makes sense to me. And, I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I really liked it. And I think if I, worked on a little bit more, we would see more features. And again, I sent my feedback to the Code Sandbox team. Just, hey, here's what we had. Here's what worked really well for us. Here were some things that weren't obvious, but we figured them out.
Right.
And no, it's pretty neat stuff, right? So, in the browser, never left the browser.
Never left the browser.
And I could build a complete app. If you want to learn a front end framework like a React or something, you get a starter project in here.
Yeah. No, so I'm sorry. Let me follow up with this. Where does it go now? So I make a little website. Yeah. And then like sort of, what usually happens to these kids, I know this, they all say, well, how do I publish it so like my family can see the website I created?
So what we did is, this is where we did the export to GitHub.
I thought you were going to say
and that, as long as you are using, as long as it's a fully static site, which isn't to say that you can use a React or an Angular, because we have some pretty magical things now. This is the example. Oh, I froze again. Well, you know, I was going to try and show on GitHub because a GitHub repository that has all of the files that would be in a static website, GitHub will render that at a link like at your username.github.io.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So,
well, actually, you switched to me.
Yeah, we're on yours.
You gotta warn me if you're switching to me.
Looked like you had the same screen. Just
What?
a quick. It looked like you had the same screen.
Wait,
Let's see. So just since you guys can't see the chat, just a quick shout out to Chops who's hosting us.
I saw that. I was just gonna say.
All right, so App Studio preview.
Yeah,
there.
so here we are. So I created this little file new demo. We were calling it jokingly. I was calling it. And if I come down here and I scroll down in the where was it, under development? Oh, now it's grayed out. Hang on, maybe I need to go out of this thing and come back. It says my development is complete. Now watch, maybe it won't work. Oh, look at that. Now nothing happens there. And I wonder if that's because there's no... Huh.
Oh, now it's grayed out.
Now it's grayed out, and I wonder if that's because it's empty. Like if I go
Well,
to...
how did you get the other one in there?
Well, you
The
already
other one
had
was an app that
you already
I
had
had,
an app
right?
deployed.
I've seen this demo differently, where you did file new, like we did.
Yeah.
But maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to these advanced tools here, and I want to see if there's anything in the folder, because maybe it's just empty.
Okay.
Maybe it didn't put a default project in there, and I can easily do that by this got changed too. Look at this. They changed. What is this called? Kudu.
Kudu, yeah.
Kudu.
New UI for Kudu. I was in this today.
Well, you're running a Linux machine, right?
No. Oh, did I click Linux?
Well, it's SSH and Bash. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So you don't get PowerShell in.
Wait. I think what happened is I did the wrong.
No.
I don't think I did. I chose. Oh, that's probably why I don't have anything in here. All right, let me try it again. Unbelievable. I'm gonna try to do this again.
Chris, back to your machine.
Yeah, sure. So let's talk about another
Hang on.
product.
Over here.
And it's
of-
gonna while you're working on it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get this going here. How did? Oh, because it had defaulted to Linux. I'll bet that's what the problem is. Oh.
So let's talk about another product. It's a name that might be familiar to some folks.
Okay.
Do you ever remember a Visual Studio Online product?
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was?
It was what do you call it? DevOps.
It was, well, back then it was like TFS in the cloud,
TFS
right?
in the cloud. And they called it VS Online, which made no sense.
Right, Visual Studio Online, right?
Yep.
So that became Azure DevOps.
VSTS and then DevOps. Yeah.
That's right, Visual Studio Team Services and then Azure DevOps, right? And Azure DevOps is much more than this. It's more parts than Visual Studio Team Services ever was, because it's got pipelines.
It's got boards. It's got
boards. Yeah. Well, boards. You know. Anyways,
I hate.
We don't need to.
I hate to distract, but I'm just want to point this out. The reason it went to Linux, when I chose .NET Core 3.1, it forced it to Linux. But if I choose .NET Core 3, it lets me go to Windows.
Yeah, I don't know that they have 3.0 deployed to App Service for Windows yet. 3.1, I mean.
Well, I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure about that.
I don't know. I just thought that was.
You can bring your own, which is something you can't do with Framework, but I don't know that they have it here. So the Visual Studio Online name was open for another use.
Right.
When you hear the words Visual Studio Online, what do you think it would mean? Like if I just said, I've got a product called Visual Studio Online.
I could edit code and type code and do all the compiling and stuff because it's visual.
Well, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
So got the name right. Visual Studio Online, cloud-powered dev environments accessible from everywhere. It's in public preview. You can sign up for it. All you need is a Microsoft account, and you can sign up for this. Now, we talked a lot about how this all works in a browser, right? So here I am. I'm in a browser. I'm also in a different operating system. This isn't even. I'm not even in Windows, right? So I'm on Ubuntu.
What are you on?
18.
Yeah. What are you on?
What?
I don't know what that came out with the first time I said it, but the question is, so What are you on?
The operating system
Yes.
is Ubuntu 18. Okay, and that's not. You could do this in Windows. You could do this on your Mac.
Yep.
It doesn't matter.
Yep.
But here I am. I'm in a browser, and you go to you can go to online.visualstudio.com, and you get redirected here. When you enter, you have these environments. Okay, and I've already got an environment ready to go. But let's take a look at what does it take to create one of these.
Mm-hmm.
These are containers that are spun up on instances in Azure. Okay, so
Containers on instances in Azure.
yeah,
Okay.
and the reason we know it's containers is you're going to see there's a Docker file involved. But this is spun up on Azure for you. So what makes this different from Code Sandbox is that technically it's not free because you're paying for that instance time. But what's the experience like? If you say create environment, we'll call it tonight's demo, right?
Although I will check, but I think technically it is free because it's preview.
There's a pricing tab that I haven't even looked at.
Yep.
Yeah,
It
I
might be
remember
free
hearing-
during preview.
Yeah, I remember
Usually they
hearing
are.
about some stuff where this is not going to be. There might be some free scenarios, but there's a paid.
I think the fact is that I want to make sure we contrast it, as this is a product that ends up running in Azure, which is different from Code Sandbox, which is a service built by another team, another company. It's another project, not affiliated with Microsoft, but it's a team that is using the Visual Studio Code editor because that's open source.
Right.
So that's not they're not affiliated, right?
So,
yeah.
oh, should I not do that on stream?
You think this?
2 weeks in
It was a gnat. Yeah, I know. We've got bugs in this place.
All right. So let's see. What if I just go to Microsoft's GitHub, okay, and let's find a repository. Here we go, like VS Code remote try go. Okay, what makes this work is this dev container, this .dev container folder, which contains a Docker file. I know this is small. I'll make it a little bit bigger if I can.
You're also, your browser isn't maximized either, right? So you got.
I know, but that's okay. So,
Okay.
because I'm going to go to another tab in a second. So nobody likes Mac. Who works with maximized browsers?
Well, you only have limited space to see here. I'm trying to
So
and I work with maximized everything.
nobody uses maximized.
Do you really?
No.
You're
it's-
lying. You do.
So the magic here is a Docker file that you create that describes the OS you want, the SDKs you need, some commands you need to run, right? And then we have this dev container JSON file, which is documented. And this file, you can even do things like say, hey, this application is going to run on a certain port. You set up some different container settings. You can even set the user for the container and install extensions into Visual Studio Code from the dev container JSON file. So there's samples. Oh, oops, I needed that. I needed that because reason I need it is because we're gonna give this a try. So if I take just this repo, I only really need this Microsoft VS Code remote try go, because I think this is correct that it only connects to GitHub right now. I don't know that it will always be that way, but that's what I found earlier. This is what I found worked earlier. You might be able to put in a full clone link to any other service, and I'm not aware of it. But if I put this in here, I call the environment what I want, and there's some other options in these dot files to do other things and create different targets, and there's a bunch of stuff you can do. It's going to start spinning up a container based on that Docker file.
Okay.
And then it's going to create the environment based on some settings in that dev container file. So what I thought would be fun is while that's spinning up, I took our website at thedevtalkshow.com, right?
Okay.
Which this is the real devtalkshow.com site on the web. There it is. That's the real thing. That's in a repo. I added a dev container JSON file and I added a Docker
You're frozen
file.
again.
Oh, I am. I added a dev container file and I added a Docker file that described a Linux-based .NET Core 3.1 environment, which is what we need for app service. Boy, that's a bummer about this because we went pretty good last week. Yeah, makes me wonder what the deal is.
There you go.
And that's already available and ready to go. So if I click on it, if I just click on it, it brings up in the browser Visual Studio Code.
Okay. Looks familiar.
Yep.
Looks very familiar. I mean, icons and everything, right? All the, you know.
Yep. And here's this is our site. The only thing I had to do is I had to make sure we had a Docker file that described needing the 3.1 SDK and the other features to make this work. And then the dev container JSON file that basically said, hey, you know, the endpoint's going to be HTTP 5000 and stuff like that. So here I am in the browser and I could go to work. Well, you know, how would this is running in the cloud, it's running on Azure. How would I even debug this, right?
Yeah.
So let's say I go ahead and do start debugging here in Visual Studio Code. And the interesting thing though is how I don't remember. I don't remember seeing this last time.
So it's trying to debug it. It's gonna start a website for it.
Yeah,
right?
and it did work previously.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Without that question?
No, I had everything working.
Now you broke something.
But that's interesting that it wants me to declare the forwarded ports, which I didn't have to do before.
That's weird.
Was that here or was that at home?
It was here.
Okay.
So let's try it. Now that I've declared it.
Look at this.
Of course, I don't know that it actually started. Yeah, it did. It's running. So I declared the port to forward. So the way it has to work is, see, because remember, I'm in a browser.
Yeah.
So what it does is it forwards me through the browser to this sort of magic link that is getting up to port 5000 in Azure. So I'm debugging in the in that remote cloud environment.
Right, because 5000. Okay.
Right.
Because it doesn't have like DNS and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
How do I get to it? It's localhost.
How does it do that?
How does it see? And all I had to do was add this forwarded ports. Now I didn't have to do that earlier, but you saw it was pretty easy for me to do.
Right,
I just added it. I just said
it was easy for you to do.
I just said, yeah, sure, add another forwarded port.
That's crazy, by the way. That it's in your browser.
Yep. Hold on, and then I crashed the VirtualBox. So
did you really?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, the VirtualBox, not the browser thing.
No,
you didn't.
Wait,
that's not what crashed.
When you did it earlier, did you do it on VirtualBox?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, just because it was easier for me instead of dual booting or something, let's just bring up the Ubuntu environment. This doesn't have to be on Ubuntu. I could go open it in the browser in Windows, and you could open it on your Mac.
And likely, the scenario you're doing here is not a real scenario. If you were going to do this in the browser, you wouldn't open Ubuntu.
No.
Right?
That was
like
just to prove a point.
You're just proving a point.
Yeah.
You do it on.
Wait a minute. What if you work in Ubuntu?
No. But that's fine.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is you wouldn't have your Windows machine connecting to a VirtualBox running Ubuntu just to run the browser.
Right. That's right.
Why would you do that?
There's no reason.
You're proving a point.
I'm just proving a point that it's not locked to anything.
But the fact that it crashed has nothing to do with
that was
any of this,
that was a VirtualBox crash and not anything else, because I had to completely restart VirtualBox and everything.
Yeah.
And but it's pretty amazing. Here's the other thing, which I don't know if we can pull it off, and I don't know if you're ready to go back to your app service editor. I don't know if we can pull this off, but we can certainly try to set it up. Is you can live share through that.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah.
So that's crazy.
You know what else is interesting? I'm guessing it's a browser, right? So is there any reason you can't do this from an iPad?
Right.
Or
your phone. I mean, you wouldn't unless you set up like a Bluetooth keyboard or something.
Yeah, well,
right? But I mean, you could.
With an iPad,
sure.
You need a keyboard, right?
It doesn't matter. The device doesn't matter. That's not the point. You're using these resources. They're in the cloud. They're there for you.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, you know, if you already have developer tools
Yeah.
The goal of this show isn't to say stop what you're doing, but there is some interesting ideas here. Okay.
Well,
Remember how I pulled
the
students is a good use case.
It's a great use case.
But here's
Yeah.
another one. Remember I brought up the I was bringing up a Go environment.
Yep.
Do you know Go?
I do not.
Do you know Go? I don't know Go. But
You don't know Bo. Bo don't know Diddley.
So tonight, by the way, that was ready.
Remember that?
By the
That
way,
is showing her age.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We're not seeing you.
Well, no. Right now he's on the three of us, but
Okay. Yeah. It's okay.
You guys keep me guessing here.
Yeah.
But let's say, so one of the things that Microsoft has done is on their GitHub repo, they have these remote repositories that are all set up for this.
Yeah.
They're ready to go. So here I am. I showed you earlier that I used the GitHub clone URL for their try Go repo. Now think about this. If you wanted to try Python or Go or even .NET, you would go install an SDK of some kind or an environment of some kind. You'd probably go to the website, install it, whatever.
And then you find out you need like this plugin.
Yeah.
And you need NPM or you know like this.
Something.
It's a lot.
Something.
Yeah.
What if you could try Go without doing any of that? And then that way you don't even, and if you decide you don't want to use it the rest of the week or the rest of the month, you don't even have to uninstall anything. All right? So here we are in the browser, in that environment, and this code, this is Go code. Hello?
This is good. You're frozen again.
Yeah, so I don't know what that deal is. I guess I don't know what that's about. Because
Do you have that dongle?
Yeah, I do have the dongle. I just need the HDMI.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me
So
roll this back in once more, and then we'll get I'll do that in the background.
So anyways, here's another scenario, right? I know that we may not be ready for this today, but what if in the future you could throw away all of that onboarding documentation for how to set up an environment at work so that a developer can join the team and get right to work, right? And instead...
You don't want to walk in front of that. I got it covered.
And
Okay.
instead they just look. We've got a repo that has a ready dev container file and a ready Docker file, and it's just going to come up and work for you. And by the way, you don't necessarily need Visual Studio Online to enable that today. Visual Studio Online uses this dev container, JSON, and Docker file methodology to make this stuff work in the cloud in a remote environment that you connect into over the internet. But VS Code remote development is already a product in VS Code with extensions. So we didn't have to do this in our browser. We could use VS Code. You can even, and in the future, Visual Studio will connect to it too. That's in private preview today. So kind of what I'm getting at is that this is a gateway to set up the whole development environment in a container. And there's no more world of, well, hold on. Did you put this on your dev machine? And oh, then you got to go set this thing. And then make sure you open up this port or connect this in a funny way. And there's no one installing of it either.
Well, that's nice. Yeah.
Because how many times have you tried to unwind what you did on your development machine? And now you don't unwind it, right?
I can't keep a straight face in here. I'm sorry. Rich Ross, I wish we had a portable camera that we could just turn to him right now.
No, you don't.
He's crawling around trying to get the wires. I mean, honestly, and I'm laughing, but he's doing this all for the show. It's like unbelievable, but I don't know.
Yeah.
He's like gonna knock over. The stuff's wobbling. It's just chaos.
So I mean, here I am, right?
It's chaos.
Wait a minute. Those things are wobbling off screen.
Yeah, that's right. Nothing's wobbling on screen. You're right about that. Oh, can you grab that? You're gonna have to. You can't have it magically hook up to his.
It's funny. Of course, now it's not frozen this whole entire time.
Of course.
It's just basically waiting for Rich to do all this work, and the wireless link works fine, I'm sure.
So let me ask you this though. Going back to what you were saying, if they have the repo you pull down, you had to do some setup stuff at the beginning. You were like doing some stuff with.
Okay, let's
Docker
go look
container.
at it.
Like what I'd like to say, like, see, I don't know that stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
So do I have to worry about that? Like,
you're talking about how did okay, so first I showed you Visual Studio Online and these environments. Yeah. And then I created an environment, and the target was a Git repository. But to your point, the Git repository does have some setup, right? That's not free.
Okay.
So let's go to
Taking a picture
GitHub.
of Rich. I've got the I got a picture of you here, by the way.
Let's go to GitHub, the
Post
Dev
that
Talk
on the
Show,
website.
right?
Thanks,
So
Andy.
here in the Dev Talk Show on GitHub, right, our first repository, try VS Online Dev Talk Show, okay? So to your point, there is some setup. This is just a plain old .NET Core 3.1 project. There's a solution file. Here's the website. This would look familiar to anybody who's used to ASP.NET Core MVC. That all looks familiar. What else is there? Look, we got an Azure pipeline, no big deal. We've got our README, git ignore, standard stuff. This is the added stuff that makes VS Code remote development work.
Right.
In here, you're right, there's 2 files. You got to know Docker, right? Or at least be able to copy enough of a Docker file to get going.
Right.
That's what's happening here. The other file is the proprietary makes it go, Visual Studio Online makes it go,
Right.
is this dev container, and there is a whole reference for how to build these things.
But you basically stick those in your repo, and you're done.
And you're done.
Right. No, you know what? The scenario we didn't talk about here because at first I keep thinking, well, why would we do this for an existing project, right? Then I'm starting to think, so I'm at work, and I've got my ASP.NET Core website or something like that. And I think, well, wouldn't it be fun to throw one of these things on here for goofing around? Yeah, sure. Okay. A few weeks later, let's just imagine I'm on vacation somewhere, and I didn't bring my laptop with me, or whatever, or I don't have all the stuff I need to do,
Yeah.
And I can
Maybe
go
it's a
to,
different laptop that
maybe
you don't
it's a
have
different
tools
laptop,
on.
or maybe I go to the hotel, where they have I don't know,
The
they still have
business
those
center.
things.
Do they still do
have them?
that?
I don't even know, right?
Yes, you can fax from there, Andy.
Yeah, right. But maybe I use one of my kids' laptops or something like that, right? Or a machine that doesn't have everything installed,
Right.
and I can go to it, and I can go to as long as I can connect to the Git repo.
Yeah.
I can get a development environment spun up.
Right.
And that's a sort of that's a saving that could be a very powerful backup plan for developers.
Yeah.
A very powerful way to have an emergency plan,
Right. Your machine dies and you got to get something done.
Oh, your machine dies. That's another use case, right? Because believe me, we have that happen, right?
Yeah. More than we like
my
to
gosh,
admit.
I'm down. I'm totally down. I'm not going to get any work done for 2 days because my machine died.
I got to rebuild it.
Right.
Yeah.
I got to fix something.
So that's another good use case. That's another good use case.
So do you think the app service editor, is it going to work?
No.
Okay.
I took a look while we were doing it.
Yep.
For some reason, again,
Can I go back to your screen?
you could. It's
There's not much. Not
no,
that
I
exciting.
went into the app service editor preview. In this case, it's live. The button is enabled, but when I went back over here, now it's empty. Now I've seen a demo. I'm telling you, I've seen this demo. In some session I went to somewhere where there was code in here to start with, right? But let's see, so.
Well, hosting start HTML is there.
Yeah. There's a file, right? And if I look at this,
And don't when you make an Azure web app and you just make it scratch, you get this little thing that says, "Hey, you're up and running." It might even use that voice. I don't know.
Yeah. Now I should have a way to add a file, but I'll be honest, I don't see a way to add a file here. Right?
You are in a Visual Studio Code looking editor.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. Totally right. But this is the file
Now,
tab. This is the Explorer
Here's what
tab,
I'm
so
wondering: is there like a read only or an edit?
I think
Something that kind of says, "Yeah, I'm cool to work on this."
I think it's something like that, where this is. I thought I remember hearing something. What's this, by the way? Here's something else I can change. So
Yeah, you can browse the website. Sure.
you can. Yeah, I was just looking to see what you could do in these tools here. So I thought I remembered a demo once where some of these things would work but once you were sort of deploying from a DevOps, it knew that, and it sort of made these things read only. But I don't know. I'm at a loss. I don't remember. Again, this wasn't really part of what we were talking about.
Well, we
doing.
wanted to show Code Sandbox, show
I was
Visual
gonna
Studio
look and
Online.
See this? You have an app service continuous deployment feature enabled. You should be careful. Yeah, you don't want to do that. That's what I was talking about. Dev tools. I don't know. Be another show, right?
Yeah.
Be another show to get some more details on how that works.
Well, I think another thing we didn't get to on this show is that, so we talked about coding, either some front end stuff with Code Sandbox, which I think is a great tool, or if you have access to Visual Studio Online in public preview, now your whole environment is saved, and you don't have to use it in the browser. I mean, we were kind of trying to stick to the show theme. There's in the Visual Studio Online tooling, there's a button that you say, hey, open this in VS Code, and VS Code connects to it. So it's pretty amazing stuff. There's some other tools that I think maybe we can get to another time. For example, like the Azure Cloud Shell is, I don't know if you can bring it up real quick.
I can.
The Azure Cloud Shell is pretty cool because, you might read about how to do things in Azure in the Azure CLI, and then you say, the first thing that I always would say is oh man, I got to go install the Azure CLI. And it's like, no, you don't. You can go to the portal, right, and bring up the Azure Cloud Shell, and now it's all installed and configured. And if I recall correctly, if you're in the portal, they even log you into your subscription.
Like we're doing here,
Rich
right?
has
So
this
this
here
is
right now. This is your computer, right? Uses your screen.
Yep.
And
logged into an account into my Azure subscription, and the screen you don't see here, that's because I've already logged into this previously, is the screen that prompts me to create some storage behind the scenes, right?
Okay.
So I get that somewhere in my Azure subscription now is a storage account. And the reason for that storage account is because I have a network drive here, right? I'm in Bash, so I have something actually called Cloud Drive. I think I can zoom into that a little bit.
Cloud Drive, yep.
Yep. So I can see that. If I wanted to, was it MKID?
And again, Rich is in the browser here.
Yep.
We still haven't left the browser tonight.
Yep. Right. And if I close this down, come back to it, as long as I don't delete that storage account, I can still go ahead and come back to the resources that are there. If I wanted to do, I think I have Git commands in here, right? So yeah, so Git's natively installed in here.
Look at
right?
that.
Wait a second.
So
Git clone.
yeah.
What's our?
Oh boy.
The Dev Talk Show. And then, oh gosh, you want the name of the repository, don't you?
Sure, we're gonna clone it, right?
So it's try-vsonline-
Well, that's
Dev
not
Talk
a real
Show.
repository. That's
No,
just,
it's a real repository.
but no, that's not our real repository.
No, that's, to be clear, it's not the
I think
real
he wanted our
repository.
real repository.
Oh, is that
Yeah.
what you want?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's out in GitHub, right?
It's on Azure DevOps.
Oh, I see.
It doesn't mean you can't get it.
Well, just get this one because it's the same thing. Get the one.
Yeah,
he's
this
got.
one's just public.
Yeah, get this one. It'll be easier.
So it's try-vsonline-devtalkshow.git.
This is where Rich tries to type. I didn't have much luck.
Try-vs online.
Dev Talk Show, not the Dev Talk Show.
No,
you're fine.
at the
You're
end
fine
now.
at the end. So Dev Talk Show.
We're winging this along here, guys. We don't know all these,
So you can clone this down in Azure Cloud Shell.
I'm gonna clone it into this folder that I just
Yeah. Okay.
specified. ls. You can see this here. cd. And there you go. There's your repo.
dir.
Wow.
So
Dir. He used dir in Linux. What is dir?
But what's even better than that, right? So I've got this here. I can bring in a repo. I can use it to, if this repo maybe had ARM templates in it, I could use it to run the ARM command to go ahead and push those, create resources in Azure. I have access to all of the, if I just run AZ, you can see all of the great things that I can do to manipulate the Azure components right here in the browser. But since I'm in this directory, what I'm going to do here is this little curly brackets. If I click that,
what the heck is this?
so this is essentially,
VS. Oh, no, this is a editor. Right?
it's an editor running right now inside of my Cloud Shell.
What did you type to get that to come up?
Just the little curly braces right there that says Open Editor. So instead of opening something potentially confusing like Vim that we never know how to get out of, right? I'm able to jump into here. It's not like we've seen with some of the other ones where it's Visual Studio Code
Right.
kind of editor, but it's pretty close. So I can do the files. I can make changes if I want to here.
I'm
I'm
willing
surprised
to
they didn't use
bet
VS
that
Code.
that is the VS Code text editor,
Yeah.
because
Might be
that
without
looks
the
a
rest of
lot.
It
the-
looks a lot
Yes,
like it,
like
yeah.
a lot of the other features are missing,
Right.
but it looks
It even has the little
the
gutter on the right. What do
the
you call
gutter
that
on the
thing?
right with the
This thing.
preview. I don't know
Yeah.
what they call that. The line
So-
numbering.
So this is to edit file, like so.
You
so
could make
this
a quick
so
edit
here's
from Azure
another
Cloud
here's
Shell.
a
and
scenario,
push it
right?
back up. Yeah.
Again, you want to manage your Azure resources, and you have scripts that you want to run or something like that in Azure, like you said, ARM templates and stuff like that. And it's stuff that you could go to the Azure portal and do things manually.
Yeah.
But if you're the kind of person that likes to to use CLIs and you have scripts and stuff that you want to run, you could do this from anywhere, right?
Yep. And I could also switch if I'm more of a PowerShell person than a CLI person.
Right.
I could switch and do this all in PowerShell, right? So didn't have to install anything, didn't have to do anything fancy, but I have access to a project and my CLI tools in Azure. So pretty
Wow.
cool.
It's kind of amazing. Like, I don't know what enables all this stuff, but let's you know what I was thinking about earlier, because we saw like different things. The one you showed again, I always forget the name of it. The thing we started with,
Code Sandbox.
Code Sandbox.
Yeah.
And the samples there were JavaScript-y kind of things, right?
Yeah,
And
because for front end.
but it's doing it in the
Well-
browser. It's not like compiling things on a server somewhere. It's doing it in the browser, right?
So
Like, where is that stuff running?
you're saying like if you were doing React or something,
Yeah.
or and you needed a tool chain. So there's a lot of interesting things you can do there. I don't exactly know. I haven't investigated how Code Sandbox might implement Angular or React or something like that. But there is unpackage unpkg, which I know people will do for completely static React sites, where basically they pull in the React code and it compiles it on the fly. This is not performant,
Right.
but it can make everything is static, and it might be good for playing around.
Right.
And then you say like, okay, you want to go to production here. I'm not enough of an expert on that. We used Code Sandbox for the static sites only.
Yeah. Well, what I was wondering though is what could we do with in the future of all this WebAssembly stuff that we've got going on, right? Blazor and all this kind of stuff, and .NET is running in the browser. Could there be a compiler? So would you be able to use something like a web HTML editor, like a web-based editor,
Right.
and write actual code, write C# code, and compile it and have it sort of run in your. Does that make any sense? And have it run so it's a browser-based editor where it's not even using a server. It's just, I don't know.
Using the browser to do the editing, but sending it somewhere off to do the compile.
No,
right?
compiling it right here because we've got .NET running. So a .NET compiler running in .NET.
Interesting.
I don't know. Like maybe I'm getting too far in the loop. What were you going to show us?
So that same cloud browser or
Yeah.
cloud shell on my phone.
So that's it on your phone. Well, it's hard to tell, of course.
Well, it's hard to
Wow.
tell, but realize that what you're seeing and it's signing me in.
Yeah.
But you can do a cloud shell on your phone if you wanted to. You don't have to be in the browser.
So you're just using the phone browser, or it's an app?
So it's an app. It's the
Okay.
Azure app, but
The Azure
it includes the cloud
There's an
shell
Azure
in the app.
app.
Yeah.
I don't have the Azure app. What other features?
Why do
does
you
that
not have the
I don't
Azure
know. What other features does that have?
That's a good question.
I don't know. We maybe jumped topics a little bit there, but I didn't know there was an Azure app. I know there's an Azure DevOps app, and I got to be honest, it's a little lacking. It's good for like creating stories, user stories, and stuff like that. It's not great for some of the other things, right? It's got its, and I hope it's going to grow. But Azure app for Android. I don't know. I'm just going to look and see.
So you can access your subscription, you can access your services, you can see the health of things like your app service that you have running, and the properties about it, like what region it's located in and all that. Hang on, I'm gonna close the door.
Yeah. So interesting, huh? Azure app. Look at that.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the Google Play Store because I have an Android phone. I'm just looking at the thing, and there's some screenshots in here. Guess you can't drag that. I don't know what's going on there. That's weird. Oh, there it goes. All
right.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That seems like that's a nice to know thing that I could have in my pocket. Just easy to get access to my Azure subs and stuff like that.
You're out traveling. Somebody asks you a question about it, or you want to see, hey, it looks like the website's down. Oh, I can take a look at it. Hey, let's just do a reset from here, right?
Yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna be installing that. Thanks for that little tip.
Of course.
It's like you don't know what you're gonna learn on these shows, right? Like someone was on my stream today and they mentioned like, what was it that I showed? And they were like, what? And then they tweeted about it later, and now I'm like blanking out on what it was. It was something that wasn't really the basis of the show, you know.
Right.
It was just one of those things, and now I'm gonna go look, and my screen's not up, so now I'm kind of curious to.
So we tried very hard to not ever leave a browser tonight.
Well,
I think we did all right.
And not install anything.
Yeah, not install anything, not leave a browser. I mean, there's stuff installed on my machine. I've got Visual Studio. I've got VS Code, but didn't want to use any of it.
Oh, sorry. It was Azure Mask.
Oh, okay,
right?
yeah.
And it was Bob Crowley who said,
hey, that's pretty cool.
That's one of those things like, wait, what was that thing you just did?
Yeah.
Kind of like with Rich. I go, wait, there's an app? You never know what you're going to learn. That's why you tune in and be a part of these like online communities,
That's right.
Yeah.
So, I think good use cases, for free or to try to teach, maybe it's good for youth or maybe career changing adults that have no experience. Are going to come with a device that doesn't have any tooling on it. You can get started with the Code Sandbox option, and then I think the Visual Studio Online option, and I know we concentrate on Visual Studio Online, which does run all in a browser, but that same technology is what powers what I think the official name of is called like Visual Studio Code Remote Development. I don't know if I got that name exactly right. Okay. But it's the same two files power both of those experiences.
Two files.
It's just that the remote development experience, if you don't use Visual Studio Online, it happens in Docker on your machine.
Okay.
No, not too different from letting the cloud run Docker and then you connect up to it. But the Visual Studio Online was pretty magical, where it's like, well, wait a second, the code's running up there. I need to connect to port 5000. How do I do that? Well, the IDE says, here's a magic URL that gets you up there for your debugging session. And it all worked, right? And in fact, I had the Go stuff. I know we had some trouble with it, but just while you were working, I got it all up and running, and the web page returned. And it's just, I don't have Go tools installed on this machine here. But yet I can try it. I could now what I could do is forget their hello sample. I could now start working through some other samples or maybe a lesson or a course
or a course, right?
And just start working through it here. And I still haven't installed anything.
Yep.
I mean, it gets to the point where maybe I don't even want the .NET SDK because it's I don't want to have 50 SDKs installed. I'm not sure that I'm really ready for this, but maybe I don't want to have the old one and the next one and the next one. Let me just have the latest, and it can come through VS, it can come through Visual Studio Online. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm going to go home and work that way.
Right.
But we're getting there.
Yeah. And one of the things, we had a conversation earlier, like around dinner time, that was, well, that's the browser. What are all the cool things that you can do just by installing a container?
Yeah.
Right. And a container being a self-contained, set of applications that you can remote into and be able to use those tools. Python's a big example, right? Installing, certainly I think the conversation is around the older version of Python. If you have to install 2.7 because you had a customer who needed that, that's a real pain in the a pain to install.
Alongside your current Python 3
which
install.
is 3 something, right? Because they're all.
Because if I remember correctly, when you install Python, a lot gets added to your path.
Yes.
So you don't want those conflicting, bumping into each other.
Because it's you're running 3, and all of a sudden it's pointing back to
and
2
apologies
something.
to Python experts who want to correct me. Do so in the comments.
I
apologize.
Why we make those statements, so the comments can get.
But I do think that there is that some folks like, hey, you got to pick one. You don't want to try both. You could be problematic. Right. But to your point, it's go back to Python 2 for your customer because you just put it in a container, a remote environment, and it just works.
Yeah, and the CLI comes in a container. We talked about other applications that exist inside a container. So
is this a show?
There's a possibility of some cool things to explore that way. Yeah.
I loved how the I loved seeing how the Azure Cloud Shell came with Git, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was, that was cool.
Well, here's the funny thing. We didn't show this tonight, but I'm in Visual Studio online in the browser, and I just double checked. I went to the terminal. They installed Git in the Docker container too. So again, I have everything I need. I can work here. I made some changes. I can push them up to the remote. And then maybe that kicks off a deployment, which we set up entirely in the browser.
Right.
In Azure DevOps.
Yeah.
Or maybe wrote the YAML file and then did, because if you start to get really good at the YAML stuff, you can set up the multi-stage pipeline all in there and never even walk into Azure DevOps. I think. I mean, that would be that. There's another show to.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things we're trying to learn for our own site.
Man, there's so much.
Which you can reach, right? We are online at the devtalkshow.com.
We are. HTTPS.
Yep,
That's the Christmas hard work there.
Finally make sure that it's safe and secure for you at devtalkshow.com or thedevtalkshow.com or www.thedevtalkshow.com. You will get there, and if you go to video.thedevtalkshow.com or any of the other related spinoffs, you will get to our YouTube channel where every one of our shows is archived, including the awesome show we had with Carl Franklin a couple weeks ago.
You just turned it. I was going to say, let's not.
Yeah.
That was great.
That was a lot of fun.
What a great show.
And then we highlight some of the other streams, Philly.net and Tech Bash, and Andy, who has been. Yeah, we do take pull requests.
Yeah,
for the website.
That's you got to use that joke twice.
I got to use it twice today, but only once online. And Wednesdays at noon Eastern time, Andy is streaming coding sessions where he's working on a website project. And today you did some database work.
It did.
Yeah.
Well, you could say database work, deploying a
database, right?
Which is, listen, I think deployments. I have this like love-hate relationship with all this DevOps stuff, right? It's kind of a pain in the neck, right? At best, there's trouble spots in these things. It's hard to configure sometimes and hard to test. You got to run it and test it and try it again. But when the stuff works great, I mean, it's a lifesaver. I mean, I believe in DevOps. I love it, right? Yeah. It's a love-hate relationship. So the point is, had some hiccups along the way, but in about an hour, I was able to show how to create a Visual Studio database project. Throw one table in there, nothing fancy. Throw a table in there, okay? Hook it up to a build running in Azure. Builds a DAC pack, okay?
Now what's...
A DAC pack is, I don't know how to explain it exactly, but a DAC pack is a deployable version of a database. It's the metadata, I guess, of a database. It can include scripts and things like that, and your schema and things like that. And it supports changes, not just... it'll get you to like a ready state. Like if your database already has changes in it or has a database, you can deploy the DAC pack on top of it, and it will just do incremental updates and stuff like that. Really cool, powerful tool. But created that DAC pack, created an ARM template to create a SQL server and a database, right? Put those into the build and then and it pushed them through into the release pipe, and in the release pipeline, it ran the ARM templates. And it executed the DAC pack and set up the database tables and stuff like that. Now, I'm throwing out a lot of terminology. What I'm trying to say is, in spite of the problems that we have with DevOps and stuff like that, right? I did it in an hour and 15 minutes, right? And there were some hiccups, but so there's some good answers for deployments for database.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's other ways to do it. Mm-hmm. This might not be the best way for you. I wasn't even talking about why in this episode. I was just showing how to do it, and it was fun.
Why did you go down that path? Was it something you just were interested in, or?
Well, no, I think it's a good choice. I think it's a good choice. It's stuff we're starting to do at work for databases. We've had other ideas and other ways to deploy database changes, but I think that ideally this will be the easiest way when you have database with lots of tables and you're adding columns and stuff like that. You just want to, or you're pushing new tables out to your existing schema in Azure SQL.
Yeah.
It's an easy way to do that. I know there's other features you can add. You can have like postscripts and prescripts. So if you want to like move data around before the DAC pack can contain all those kind of things. Because data is always a problem.
Right.
Data's always the problem when you're trying to do these kind of upgrades.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Especially when we have the code path where it's like, oh, I can push the code, I can put it to deployment slot and test it there and see if it works. If it works, great. I can fold it out, and I can always roll it back. Like, and then the inevitable question is,
but what about the database?
Exactly.
Yeah. And
exactly.
There's really never been, and I don't think there ever will be, a good rollback strategy for databases, except for like restore from backup. But once there's new data in there, you can't do that. You know?
Right. And that is actually, I mean, when we have the conversation with customers, is like, think about failing forward, basically.
Yeah, failing forward, right.
Being able to use things like feature flags and being able to make sure your components that talk to data are a little bit, resilient to understand what some of those changes and take those into effect.
And we try to deploy. One of the things I try to do is focus on when I'm making database changes, focus on not putting in breaking changes. So in other words, adding columns,
right? But don't
remove a column.
Yes.
Or add a column, and maybe you're going to move data to another table or something like that. But if that doesn't work out right, it's still in the old table. Like you make the breaking changes like one version later. So you can always go remove stuff. Like if it works, then in the next sprint, remove the thing that you didn't need in the first place.
You deploy,
I don't know how to say that, but
well, I mean, you're trying to deploy the database so that now the database is ready and you can go change the code, because otherwise you have the more dangerous step of trying to move in lockstep, which we've had to do.
Right.
I mean, there was a time when we just had to do that, and then that's when you stayed up all night at the data center. Because you had a maintenance window and you could start like at 9 p.m. and then you had to be done by 6 a.m. Or this could even happen at a theme park. I mean, I've been there, where like we have this is the opportunity to move in lockstep.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's an interesting
Disneyland
story.
on Main Street. From the time the store closed until the time the store opened was our opportunity to upgrade the product.
That's cool.
But so what you're getting at is things like the purpose of things like feature flags or release rings is to see, can we put ourselves in a situation where even if everything doesn't go perfect, we can either roll back or it will be backward. The database will be backward compatible so that we can go update the code later.
Right. Sorry, something picked my head. We're running out of time anyway. I saw something and I'm thinking.
But we talked about working in the browser. So if you liked hearing about doing all your development inside a web browser, make sure that you follow the channel on Twitch or Mixer, or you subscribe on YouTube and go hit that little thumbs up to say that you liked the show so we know to make more like it and this is a topic that you enjoyed. If you have specific questions, make sure you put them in the comments down below.
And the beauty of that, you can do it all in the browser.
You can do all of that in the browser.
Way to tie it back.
I know, right?
And you can even do it. It doesn't even have to be right now. Thank you for watching us live. If you joined us live tonight, and if you're watching us in the future, then definitely let us know. And any feedback you have for the show at all, we're always listening because we want to improve it and we want to make sure we're talking about the topics you want to hear about. So we went a little long, but we had a lot of fun. We talked a lot about interesting things, and I think, as always, we've got some great topics for future shows. So we'll have to work through those. But if that's it for everybody, then I will say goodbye on behalf of Rich Ross, who did great work behind the cameras, on the mixing board.
Under the cameras.
I got the photo.
Behind the cameras, on the mixing board, all the
floor.
scenes that you're seeing happening. You know, for some reason, my machine over wireless kept freezing the screen sharing. So we got, you didn't see it. You didn't see it, but all this did not happen by magic. Rich made it happen. Andy Schwam here.
No magic. I'm just sitting here along for the ride.
Who not only showed us an attempt at using Azure App Service. We had a lot of good conversation about using this enterprise, and then for both of them, I am Chris Gomez, and we will see you Wednesdays at 8:30 U.S. Eastern Time right here on the Dev Talk Show.